Lin Haoran rubbed his groggy eyes and got up from the small rental house. The alarm clock kept buzzing, much like the old coffee machine in the company. He glanced at the calendar on the wall. Today was Wednesday, another uninspiring day. Outside the window, the morning light of Shanghai shines in. There are many tall buildings and busy traffic. Everything is so familiar, yet so monotonous. Hey, we have to squeeze into the subway again. He murmured to himself, grabbed the shirt that was thrown on the sofa last night, put it on and rushed out. Before the instant coffee in the kitchen could be brewed, he had already stepped out of the door in his slippers. The smell of neighbors cooking wafted from the corridor, and the smell of oil smoke mixed with the smell of steamed buns from the breakfast stall downstairs made his stomach flutter slightly, but he didn't have time to think too much. Lin Haoran is 28 years old and works as a copywriter in a medium-sized advertising company. He stares at the computer and types every day, his mind filled with bizarre requests from clients. Life is like a pool of stagnant water. Occasionally, I meet up with friends for a drink, chat about football matches or games, and then they leave. The subway was crowded with people, and he was caught in the middle, like a sardine in a can. The ant next to him was carrying a vegetable basket and poked his legs from time to time. He could only smile bitterly and move towards the wall. The news on my phone is the same as before: stock market fluctuations, celebrity scandals, nothing new. When he arrived at the company, his supervisor yelled in the conference room early, "Haoran, where is your proposal? The customer can't wait." He nodded and worked hard. For lunch, he had beef noodles from the stall downstairs, which was so spicy that he took in his breath. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, his eyes were as dry as sandpaper. He leaned on his chair in a daze, thinking, when will this day end? Finally, after get-off work, the sunset at 6 o'clock dyed the whole city orange. Lin Haoran carried his bag and squeezed out of the building, preparing to take the familiar shortcut home. On the edge of the Nanjing Road pedestrian street, crowds surged like a tidal wave, street performers played guitars, and vendors selling candied haws on a stick shouted incessantly. He looked down at his phone and saw a message from Bowen. "Brother, why don't you get together tonight? Let's have a couple of drinks at the same place." He smiled and replied, "I'm exhausted, maybe next time." Just around the corner, there was a sudden screeching sound of brakes. Lin Haoran looked up and saw a black SUV out of control, its tires causing sparks on the asphalt road and rushing straight towards pedestrians on the side of the road. Screams were heard everywhere, and a young mother pushed a stroller and froze on the spot, just about to be hit. Debris flew from the front of the car, and a piece of metal shot toward her like an arrow. "Be careful!" Lin Haoran shouted instinctively, his mind going blank. He stretched out his arms and pounced forward, as if trying to block it with his body. But something strange happened. His hand didn't touch anything, but he felt an invisible force pouring out from his fingertips. The piece of metal paused in midair, then slowly deflected and hit the ground with a clanking sound. The SUV came to a stop next to the mother's stroller, its engine still wheezing. The crowd stood stunned for 2 seconds, then burst into cheers and exclamations. Lin Haoran stood there blankly, his hands still raised, his palms slightly hot. "What is going on?" he murmured, his heart beating like a drum. The mother turned her head and hugged the child with tears in her eyes. "Thank you." "What was that just now? Did you push it away?" He shook his head awkwardly. I don't know either." People around him began to gather around, some were taking pictures with their mobile phones, and some were asking questions. He squeezed out of the crowd, his head was buzzing, and his legs were as weak as stepping on cotton. Telekinesis? What the hell is this? Something from a novel? It's impossible, he's just an ordinary office worker. As he trotted home, the street lights turned on and the neon lights flashed, and his mind became a mess. When I opened the door, I saw the lights in the rental house were dim, and there were instant noodles that I didn't eat last night on the table. He slumped on the couch, gasping for air and staring at his hands. The feeling just now was like a warm current, flowing from my mind to my fingertips. He tried to concentrate and gestured at the water glass on the coffee table. The water glass swayed slightly, then slid to the edge and almost fell. Wow! He pulled back his hand in fright, his heart pounding. Excitement surged up, mixed with a hint of panic. Is this true? Do you have superpowers? He took a deep breath and tried again. This time, he imagined a glass of water floating. Sure enough, the water glass rose slowly, circled in the air, and then fell gently. That's so cool. Lin Haoran couldn't help laughing, feeling like a child discovering a new toy. From passive surprise to active experimentation now, his mentality is quietly changing. Life was too ordinary before, but now, maybe it's a little different. Suddenly, his wrist sank, and he looked down. When did he get an extra watch? The ancient silver watch case had strange runes engraved on the dial, and the needle moved slowly, as if mocking his confusion. Where did this come from? He frowned, thinking back to before and after the car accident. He didn't remember wearing anything. Try turning the crown and time seems to slow down. The air in the room became thick and the hands of the clock on the wall moved at a snail's pace. He blinked and reached for the remote control. The phone's ringtone was supposed to ring, but it was delayed for a few seconds. Hey, Haoran, why didn't you reply to the message? I've been waiting at the bar for a long time. Bowen was on the other end of the phone, his voice as casual as ever. Lin Haoran pressed the crown and the time returned to normal. He was stunned and replied with a smile, "Brother, I'm really tired. Let's wait another day. What about you? How are you doing as an engineer? Are you working overtime again?" Bowen snorted, "Working overtime? Every day. The company's crappy project, the server keeps having problems, I'm going to vomit. Oh, by the way, have you heard? There are a lot of strange things happening in the city recently. The news said that someone saw the shadow of a person floating in the air in Pudong, and the police suppressed it. There are rumors on the internet that it is some kind of supernatural being who is causing trouble. Ha, do you believe it? It's like a Marvel movie." Lin Haoran's heart tightened and he unconsciously touched his watch. Superpowers? It sounds ridiculous. But his voice was a little unnatural, and the scene of the car accident flashed in his mind. Bullshit? Who knows? Shanghai is so big, there are hidden dragons and crouching tigers. I heard that some people can control things, telekinesis, and so on. If I had that ability, I would have quit my job and traveled around the world. Bowen laughed, with a bit of envy in his tone. Hey, did you encounter anything strange on your way to work today? Be careful, the city is full of dangers. No. It's okay. Lin Haoran hung up the phone and stared at his watch, his excitement gradually giving way to uneasiness. The telekinesis, the watch, the rumors in the blog post, it's all too coincidental. He stood up and walked around the room, trying to repair the broken gaps in the sofa with his mind. The thread winds automatically, as if a pair of invisible hands are sewing. It's okay, it works, he said to himself, raising the corners of his mouth. But deep down in my heart, a wave of curiosity came over me. Where does this ability come from? Is there really a hidden crisis in the city? What should I do? The night was getting dark, and there was constant sound of cars outside the window. He lay on the bed, replaying the day's anomalies in his mind. From the monotonous daily routine to this sudden change, he felt like he was standing at a fork in the road. Tomorrow, maybe I should try this power more. But uneasiness lingers like a shadow. Bowen's laughter was still echoing in his ears. He closed his eyes, and the pulse of the city seemed to be calling for something. When Lin Haoran woke up the next morning, the watch was still shining on his wrist. He rubbed his eyes, the chaotic dream from last night was still swirling in his mind. The city collapsed, flames and shadows intertwined. He shook his head and forced himself to get up. Outside the window, the smog in Shanghai is like a veil, and the sound of cars is already heard. Let's try it today, he said to himself, grabbing his backpack and heading out. The breakfast stall downstairs was steaming hot, and the aunt handed over hot soy milk and fried dough sticks. Shaolin, are you at work again? I see you are in good spirits. she said with a smile. Lin Haoran nodded, took a bite of the fried dough sticks, and thought about telekinesis in his mind. Not long after leaving the house, I saw the familiar alley, crowded with pedestrians during rush hours. He took a deep breath, concentrated, and gave a gentle push to the crowded crowd in front. The invisible force was like the wind, gently parting the road, allowing him to squeeze into the subway station smoothly. The office worker next to him was still complaining, "Oh, why are there so many people here?" But he had already slid into the carriage and found a corner to sit down, feeling secretly happy. This feels really good. As the subway swayed forward, he caught a glimpse of the crown of the watch and couldn't help but turn it. Time seemed to slow down for half a beat, the movements of the surrounding passengers became sluggish, and the mobile phone ticket someone handed out was like a frozen scene. He quickly let go, returned to normal, and wiped his sweat. "Don't be too showy," he reminded himself quietly. But he couldn't help but raise the corners of his mouth. When he arrived at the company, the supervisor handed over a pile of copywriting as usual. As he typed, he gently held up the water glass with his mind and brought it to his mouth to drink water. During the peak traffic jam in the afternoon, he looked out the window and saw the traffic on Nanjing Road was like a stagnant river. He touched his watch and adjusted the flow rate so that the surrounding red lights accelerated to turn green, and the taxi turned smoothly. "Thanks, boss," the driver said with a smile in the rearview mirror. Lin Haoran only nodded, but felt like he was getting a shot of blood in his heart. This convenience made ordinary days a little more fortunate, and he began to enjoy this secret sense of control. But underneath the excitement, there is always a hint of uneasiness. The blog sent a message at noon: "Brother, I dreamed of you flying into the sky last night, haha. Are you free in the afternoon? Let's have a cup of milk tea near the company." Lin Haoran replied, "Okay, see you after get off work." He wanted to find someone to talk to, but he didn't know where to start. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, he slipped out of the company. The milk tea shop was bustling with people. Bowen had already ordered 2 cups of pearl milk tea and was leaning on his chair to check his phone. "Haoran, you look good today. Didn't you stay up late playing games last night?" Bowen blinked and handed over a glass. "No, just go to bed early." Lin Haoran took it and took a sip. The sweet taste made him relax a little. They chatted about company gossip, and blogged about the overtime hell of engineers. "Whenever the server breaks down, I have to kneel down and lick the code." "Hey, what about you? Do you feel sore from copywriting?" Lin Haoran smiled and did not mention his ability. When they separated, Bowen patted him on the shoulder. "If you need anything, come to me, buddy, I'm always online." At 8 o'clock in the evening, Lin Haoran did not go home, but wandered around the block. The neon lights of the city flickered like veins. He wore a hat and tried to patrol. Bowen's words echoed in my mind: superpowers, strange things. He wanted to verify something, so he used his mind power to pick up the garbage on the roadside and throw it into the bucket, feeling like an invisible guardian. Turning into an alley, the night market in Pudong is bustling with smoke and smoke from the barbecue stalls. Suddenly, a scream pierced the air: "Help! Fire! Fire!" Lin Haoran's heart tightened and he rushed over. At the end of the alley, a man in a black jacket breathed flames at the street vendors, his palms burning like torches. The vendor was a middle-aged man, huddled on the ground, and the edges of his clothes were scorched black. "Where's the money? Give it to me quickly," the man shouted, flames licking the air, and passers-by fled in all directions. A young girl stumbled and flames flew straight into her face. "Damn it!" Lin Haoran cursed, his mind racing. He couldn't be exposed, but he couldn't ignore death either. Concentrate, your mind spreads out like a net, blocking the flames and twisting them into smoke in midair. The girl froze, got up and ran away. The man in the black jacket turned his head with red eyes. "Who?" He waved a ball of fire and shot it directly at Lin Haoran. Lin Haoran instinctively turned the crown of the watch, time slowed down around him, and the fireball floated like a slow orange water ball. He dodged sideways and pushed with his telekinesis. The fireball deflected and hit the wall, leaving scorch marks. Normal time resumed and he gasped, his hat falling off to reveal his face. What's wrong with you? What's wrong with bullying others? He yelled, trying to pretend to be an ordinary passerby. The man sneered, boy, mind your own business. This is the rule of our Shadow Fire Club. A tattoo flashed across his chest, a shadow symbol surrounded by flames. Lin Haoran's heart sank. Organization? But the man had rushed towards him, flames wrapped around his fists. Lin Haoran used his mind power to lift up the trash can on the ground to block it, and the lid flew out and hit the man on the shoulder. He took the opportunity to pull up the uncle. Run. The uncle nodded gratefully and staggered away. The man wiped the blood and said viciously, you're done, remember the Shadow Fire Club. He turned around and jumped up the wall, disappearing into the night. Lin Haoran leaned against the wall and panted. Passers-by began to watch, and someone shouted, what was that just now? Superpower? With his heart beating like thunder, he quickly picked up his hat and ran away. It felt so exciting to almost be exposed. He saved people, but found that there was a hidden darkness in the city. Back at the rental house, the doorbell rang. Bowen opened the door, holding a beer and a late-night snack. Brother, I saw in your message that something happened. How do you think? You look so bad. Bowen squeezed in, put things on the table, and opened a beer in a familiar manner. Lin Haoran hesitated and sat down. Bowen, do you believe in superpowers? Today, I encountered something strange. He briefly talked about the car accident, the watch, and telekinesis, omitting the patrol part. Bowen listened, his eyes widened, and the beer bottle stopped at his mouth. Are you kidding? Telekinesis? Time watch? It sounds like a science fiction movie. He looked at the watch closely, and the silver case flashed in the light. This thing, the runes look like antiques. What kind of quantum device could it be? From an engineer's perspective, maybe it's a high-tech gadget that interferes with magnetic fields or the speed of light. But time manipulation? That's too ridiculous. Let me study it. Lin Haoran handed over the watch, and Bowen put it on and tried it. The time did not change. He frowned, no response. Only you can use it. Interesting. He returned it and patted Haoran on the shoulder. Have some doubts, but you are not a joker. Shadow Fire Club? It sounds like a gangster with superpowers. It is recommended to conduct a low-key investigation and don't act like a hero. The city is full of dangers, and you can't handle it alone. While they were chatting, there was a soft knock on the door. Lin Haoran opened the door, and there was a girl standing there, with long hair, shawl, and eyes as deep as the night sky. Sorry to bother you. I'm Meng Qi. I just witnessed the fire in the alley. You saved people, right? Her voice was soft but mysterious. Lin Haoran was stunned. How did you know that I live here? Bowen poked his head from the back room. Beauty? Haoran, are you hiding personal belongings? Meng Qi smiled and walked in. I followed you back. It's not a bad thing. The flame is not an ordinary fire, but a supernatural power. The Shadow Fire Society is planning a big move, and the city will be in crisis. Time will be chaotic and collapse. Her eyes flickered, as if she was recalling something. I have a premonition. Your watch can help. But be careful, it will attract trouble. Lin Haoran's heart tightened. Premonition? Who are you? Meng Qi did not answer directly, only said, find a safe place to chat. I know the secret of the watch. Bowen interjected, wow, premonition girl. This plot has escalated. Haoran, don't panic, I will buffer you. Beauty, do you want to drink beer? Let's talk while drinking and promise not to leak the secret. The three of them sat down, and Bowen opened a bottle for Meng Qi. She shook her head and smiled. No, I don't drink. But thank you. The atmosphere relaxed a bit, and Bowen told an engineer joke. The last time I repaired the server, I almost sent an electromagnetic pulse to the entire building. If this watch were like that, Haoran, you would be a mobile base. Everyone laughed, and Lin Haoran looked at them, feeling warm in his heart. Ability is a double-edged sword, bringing convenience and danger. He had to learn to hide it and balance work with this secret responsibility. It was late at night, and Meng Qi stood up. "I'll contact you tomorrow and I'll tell you more." After she left, Bowen blinked. "Brother, it's interesting now. But remember, keep a low profile and don't let the heroic dream ruin your overtime life." Lin Haoran nodded and stared at his watch. The city lights flickered outside, and he felt a little more weight on his shoulders, but also more direction. Lin Haoran closed the door, and Bowen was still wandering around the living room, spinning the beer bottle in his hand. "Haoran, your watch is really ghostly." The look in Mingqi's eyes just now seemed like she was looking at some treasure. "Time Shadow Club?" "It sounds more sinister than Shadow Fire Club." "I remember the tattoo last night was a flame, but she said time is messed up. How many secrets are hidden under this city?" Lin Haoran sat back on the sofa and rubbed his temples. The weight on his shoulders was not an illusion. He felt like he was being pushed onto a path of no return, and his time card from work was still laughing at him in the drawer. "I don't know either, Bowen. But we can't just wait. Meng Qi said there is a secret. Let's start with this watch. Aren't you an engineer? Take a look at those runes for me. I always feel that they are not simple." Bowen's eyes lit up. He came over and grabbed the watch, looking at it carefully by the light of the desk lamp. "Okay, buddy, this thing looks like an antique on the surface. The runes engraved on the silver shell look like some ancient writing, mixed with some Latin and... Hey, there is a small gear here, and it will vibrate slightly when it turns." He took out the toolbox from his backpack, which contained a small screwdriver and a magnifying glass. "I searched the internet when I got home last night. Similar runes appeared in some ancient manuscripts. It is said to be something to defend against the time curse. Come on, put it on, and I will try to remove the side cover." Lin Haoran hesitated and handed it over. "Be careful, don't break it." Bowen nodded and skillfully unscrewed a small panel. What was inside was not a modern circuit, but a fine crystal structure, shining like crystal veins. "Wow, this is not high technology, it is an ancient relic. Looking at this energy flow, it is estimated that it can partially block time interference. The people in the Time Shadow Society may be abusing similar things, causing the city's timeline to become unstable. Your watch may be a safety valve specifically designed to resist it, which can prevent manipulation and abuse. If they do it on a large scale, Shanghai's clock tower and subway will be in chaos." An ancient relic? Lin Haoran's heart sank. Last night's dream flashed through his mind. The clocks in the city were reversed, and pedestrians repeated their movements like ghosts. He shook his head. "It sounds like fantasy, but what you said makes sense. I have to practice the control." The secret was almost exposed in the alley last night. Bowen closed the panel, handed the watch back, and patted his shoulder. "You have to practice, but don't carry it alone. Tomorrow I will help you modify it, add a stabilizer, use my 3D printer to make a shell, and increase the energy output. The romance of engineers is to make science fiction become reality." Just as he was talking, his cell phone buzzed, and it was a message from Meng Qi. "I'm waiting for you at the coffee shop downstairs. The informant has been caught, and Shuriying will take action. Come quickly." Lin Haoran and Bowen looked at each other, grabbed their coats and rushed out. The night breeze was cool and the lights of the Starbucks on the corner were warm. Meng Qi was sitting in the corner with a steaming latte in front of her. She raised her head, her eyes more solemn than last night. "Thank you for coming. I don't tell people this casually. I have had precognitive dreams, and I have done so since I was a child. Last night I dreamed that the three of you joined forces and saved the city's life. So, I officially joined the Ally." Bowen pulled up a chair and sat down, ordering an American cup. "Predictive girl, you are awesome. Haoran, we are a team now. Tell us about that informant. Who is it?" Meng Qi took a deep breath and whispered, "His name is Shaoli. He is one of my informants, an ordinary person, but he has no intention I encountered the plan of the Time Shadow Society. They wanted to control the city's traffic. In the dream, the subway and the viaduct were paralyzed at the same time, and there were a series of car accidents. The leader was hiding in the old warehouse area of Pudong. We have to save Shaoli first. He knows the entrance. Lin Haoran held the watch tightly, and a warm feeling surged in his heart. He was no longer alone, but he still hesitated. I am an office worker, and I have a meeting tomorrow. This hero deserves to be a hero, and his life must be chaotic, right? Meng Qi smiled and reached out to touch his arm lightly. Balance is the key. I also work as a waiter in a coffee shop. But crisis waits for no one. Bowen, can you modify the watch? Stabilize the flow of time. I dreamed that it would backfire if it was unstable. Bowen nodded and said while drinking coffee, no problem, come back to my studio tonight. Haoran, you practice slowing down skills. I'll simulate a small battle scene for testing. The three left the coffee shop, and Bowen drove straight to his engineering studio. On the top floor of an old building, the room was full of circuit boards and 3D printers buzzing. He put on the prototype of the watch case and handed it to Lin Haoran. Here, turn the crown and try to slow down the surrounding air. Think of it like a slow-motion movie. Lin Haoran concentrated and turned the crown. The hands of the clock in the studio crawled slowly, and Bowen's movements stretched like a tug-of-war. It's done. But I'm a little dizzy. He let go, and Bowen laughed. Yes, the new shell has a filter, which can reduce the backlash. Come, simulate a battle. I will be the little boss, and use the remote control car as the enemy. He started several modified toy cars, installed small motors, and rushed towards them. Lin Haoran took a deep breath, pushed one car away with his mind, and at the same time slowed down time, allowing the other car to freeze in midair. He dodged, pulled the car against the wall with his telekinesis. Haha, a narrow victory. But I feel that the team is stable. You are always a little slower on your own. After practicing, Meng Qi's phone rang. Shaoli is being held by two low-level criminals with special powers at the old dock by the Huangpu River. Hurry! The three of them rushed to the dock. The fog filled the air and the river lapped against the embankment. Two men in black were dragging Shaoli. One had a water ball floating in his hand, and the shadow under the other's feet was twisted and stretched like a living creature. How dare you rob us of the Shurian Club's goods, the water polo man shouted. Lin Haoran's heartbeat accelerated. Last night's solo trip was still in his mind, but he glanced at Bowen and Meng Qi. Go! Bowen threw out a homemade jammer, and with a buzz, the water polo man's superpower flickered. The engineer's trick will paralyze you for half a minute. Meng Qi whispered, the shadow man on the left, predict that he will pounce. Lin Haoran nodded, turned the watch, time slowed down, and the shadow spread like slow ink. He used his telekinesis to lift up the wooden box by the river and hit the shadow man. The box shattered and the man fell to the ground with a groan. The water polo man regained consciousness, threw out a water arrow, and shot Meng Qi directly. Be careful! Lin Haoran shouted, using his telekinesis to stop him. The water arrow turned into mist and fell. Shaoli broke free and crawled towards them. Thank you. The plan of the Time Shadow Club is to control the traffic lights and subway clocks during the rush hour tomorrow at noon to make time loop and block the whole city. The conflict escalated, the shadow man got up, and the shadow wrapped around Lin Haoran's legs, like a rope. He struggled, and there was a flash in his heart. I have fallen for this person a long time ago, but now I trust them. Bowen, interference! Lin Haoran shouted. Bowen threw the second device, the shadow retracted, and the man screamed in pain. Meng Qi pulled up Shaoli and said, let's go. Lin Haoran used his telekinesis for the last time, knocking the two criminals unconscious and time returned to normal. Panting, he leaned against the railing of the pier, his hair ruffled by the river breeze. Almost, but we won. Bowen patted him on the back. The team is invincible. Haoran, you have changed from a lone ranger to a team leader. How do you feel? Lin Haoran smiled, but struggled internally. He had to squeeze into the subway to go to work tomorrow. How could the hero's shadow squeeze in and clock in at 9 o'clock? Meng Qi looked at him, step by step. We have to sneak into the warehouse. The conspiracy of the Time Shadow Club has just surfaced. Shaoli nodded. The entrance is in the old shipyard, the ruined door, only the watch can open it. The three of them escorted Shaoli away from the dock. In the night, the lights of the city stretched like a galaxy. Lin Haoran clenched the watch, feeling that the weight was lighter, but more firm. Bowen drove, humming as he drove. Next time I will add a laser module. Haoran, you will be the protagonist. Meng Qi whispered a premonition clip in the back seat. The river breeze brought a salty and humid atmosphere, and their shadows stretched under the street lights, pointing to the unknown battlefield. The car slid through the night, with Bowen holding the steering wheel, Shaoli in the passenger seat still breathing, and Meng Qi in the back seat staring at the neon lights outside the window. Shaoli, you go hide in my house for a few days. There is a hidden room there, and Shireen will be temporarily unable to touch it. Bowen said, turning into an alley and stopping under the old apartment building. Shaoli nodded, his voice still trembling. Thank you, I will tell you the rest of the information. The rune on the door of the old shipyard is an hourglass pattern of time, and it can be opened by putting a pair of watches on it. But their leader. I heard that he can distort a large amount of time, so don't act rashly. Lin Haoran glanced at the back of Shaoli getting out of the car in the rearview mirror and felt relieved. The tacit understanding of the team makes him feel less lonely, but the days of a hero have just begun, and he still has to squeeze into the subway to go to work tomorrow. He rubbed his neck. Bowen, take me home. After practicing for so long, my head is buzzing. Bowen laughed. Superman still has to sleep? Okay, Ming Chi, what about you? Ming Chi shook her head. I'll take a taxi myself and go home first to sort out the prediction clips. I'll contact you at noon tomorrow. Bowen sent Lin Haoran downstairs and patted him on the shoulder. Remember to lock the door, the Xinghui people are very shady. Lin Haoran went upstairs, and the moment he opened the door, exhaustion came over him like a tide. He threw off his shoes and fell on the sofa, still wearing his watch, which was slightly warm. Just as I closed my eyes, a black shadow flashed outside the window. An assassin. A masked man climbed in from the balcony, stabbing straight at him with a dagger in his hand, moving as fast as a ghost. Damn it! Lin Haoran instinctively turned the crown. Time froze, the surrounding air solidified, the dagger stopped in midair, and the man's eyes still glared fiercely. His heart beat like a drum, and with a surge of thought, he pushed the dagger away, and at the same time, he picked up the coffee table and threw it at the assassin. Time resumed, the man groaned, knocked over the vase and rolled out of the balcony. Lin Haoran chased him out, locked the man's legs with his mind, and hung him in the air. Who sent you here? Xinghui? The man struggled and vomited out a mouthful of blood. You ruined our plan. The leader will not let you go. Lin Haoran increased his strength, and the man screamed in pain. The old shipyard is distorted in a large area, and time will engulf the city. He let go, and the man fell outside the balcony with a muffled sound. Lin Haoran gasped, rushed into the house and locked the door, his mind buzzing. Large-scale distortion? The leader ability that Shaoli mentioned. Now we are in big trouble. He grabbed his cell phone and called Bowen. Brother, my house was attacked. An assassin just escaped. Bowen's voice was immediately alert. What? I'm in the studio, come over right away. Are you okay? Lin Haoran checked the wound and found only scratches. Fortunately, it was frozen with a watch. Come on, I need your surveillance device to track this guy. 20 minutes later, Bowen rushed through the door with a toolbox, and Meng Qi followed suit, her face pale. I foresaw the danger, but I didn't expect it to happen so quickly. She said, helping Lin Haoran bandage his arm. Bowen set up a homemade monitor and connected it to the camera downstairs in his hacking software. Look here, the assassin ran eastward, and I'm tracking the license plate. The Shadow Society has counterattacked, and they know your location. Haoran, this Superman's daily life is really exciting. If I had known I would install an infrared trap for your home. Lin Haoran smiled bitterly. Superman? If you are late for work, you have to deduct money. The boss hasn't bothered me yet. Meng Qi sat down, her eyes darkened. they have been chasing me for a long time. I have had predictions since I was a child, and I have been targeted by the Time Shadow Society. They want to use my ability to control the future. My parents to protect me, I was trapped in a cycle of twisted time. I escaped and realized that there was hell under this city. Her voice trembled, and Lin Haoran held her hand. I'm sorry, but now, we are not alone. Bowen typed on the keyboard, and the tracking route flashed on the screen. Found it. The assassin is hiding in an alley in Pudong, but this is just a gangster. Ming-Chi, do you have any new predictions? Ming-Chi closed her eyes for a moment, then opened her eyes. The bank in the city center, at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. They are going to rob, use time powers to make the security cycle, and steal a batch of ancient cultural relics, maybe similar relics of watches. Haoran, you have to go. Lin Haoran nodded, determination rising in his heart. He couldn't let them succeed. He pulled out a piece of black cloth from the drawer and covered his face. Masked hero mode, turn on. Bowen, give me a communicator. Bowen handed over the earphones and joked, Haoran, you dress like a guy from a street comic. Be careful not to be late to the bank. Superman is late and the boss will be mad. The three of them laughed, and there was a touch of warmth in the tension. The next morning, the city center was bustling with people crowding in front of the bank. Lin Haoran mingled among the office workers, thinking to himself, balance, the key is balance. At 9:30, he slipped into a nearby alley, put on a mask, and the voice of Bowen sounded in the earphones. Haoran, I hacked into the bank and monitored it. 3 superpower criminals, a time loop, a mind force to push the door, and a phantom to cover. Ming-Chi was in the backup vehicle, predicting that they would attack on time at 10 o'clock. The bell in the bank hall struck 10 o'clock, and 3 men in black rushed in. The leader turned a ring, and the time cycle was started. The security actions were repeated, and the alarm was silent. The crowd screamed, the telepathic criminal pushed open the safe, and the phantom criminal created a dummy cover. Hurry up, the cultural relics are inside, the leader growled. Lin Haoran sneaked in from the side door, turned his watch, and partially froze the cycle, making time only slow down for the enemy. With a sweep of his mind, he smashed a dummy away, exposing his body. Who? The telepathic criminal turned around and pushed a wave of metal fragments. Lin Haoran dodged, and Ming-Chi shouted in the earphone, on the left, I predict he will explode. He slowed down time, the debris fell slowly like raindrops, and his mind pushed back, hitting the prisoner's shoulder. Street melees broke out, prisoners rushed out of the bank, passers-by scattered and traffic jammed. The leading time criminal threw out ripples, trying to twist the surroundings and make pedestrians' movements lag. Masked boy, you're in the way. Lin Haoran's heart tightened. This distortion is stronger than a watch, he has to get close. Bowen was in the headphones. Haoran, use the stabilizer I added last night to slow down his ripples. I'm live broadcasting on the drone, no, tracking. Lin Haoran jumped up to the roadside stall, pulled up a shared bicycle with his telekinesis and threw it at the time criminal. At the same time, he froze the ripples so that the distortion only affected a small piece of asphalt road, cracking like a spider web. He landed on the ground, turned the crown at close range, and froze the leader with all his strength. The man froze. How did you prevent it? Lin Haoran locked his throat with telekinesis. Tell me, where is the leader? What is the large-scale distortion? The man struggled. The old shipyard. He can turn back time in the entire area, and the city will collapse. The phantom criminal rushed towards him and created a clone. Lin Haoran closed his eyes and listened to Ming-Chi's prediction. The real body is in the middle. He pushed his mind, the clone disappeared, and the real body fell to the ground. The telepathic criminal climbed up and pushed the lamppost. Lin Haoran slowed down time and the pole tilted slowly. He moved out of the way and tied the 3 of them together with his backhand telepathy. The siren sounded, the police rushed in, and passers-by took pictures with their mobile phones. Masked hero. Did he stop time? Lin Haoran slipped away, took off his mask, and blended into the crowd. His heart was churning. If he was exposed, the media would fall out. but my skills have become much better and I no longer wield them randomly. When he returned to the company, it was already noon, and his boss glared at him in the conference room. Lin Haoran, you are late again. What did you do last night? News of bank robberies are flying all over the sky, and you look so bad? Lin Haoran smiled awkwardly. Traffic jam, boss. Be on time next time. But he thought in his heart, the price of being a hero is this double life. Deducting money for being late, but saving people is worth it. In the afternoon, the three of them gathered in Bowen's studio, and the TV broadcast. The mysterious masked man stopped the bank robbery, and witnesses said he manipulated time. Bowen laughed. Haoran, you are on fire. Superman's daily life, being late at work turns into a hero scandal. Meng-Chi chuckled, but held Lin Haoran's hand tightly. But the leader's ability is distorted in a wide range. We have to be careful. My past tells me that the organization will not stop. Haoran, thank you for making me feel at home. Lin Haoran looked at them, feeling warm in his heart. The price is high, but having them makes it worth it. He nodded. Old shipyard, next step. Team, are you ready? Bowen raised his glass. Go for it. Engineer plus hero, invincible. Meng-Chi smiled, and the premonition clip flashed deeper shadows, but the eyes of the three were firm, and the city lights outside the window flickered, and the battle had just begun. The lights in the studio were dim. Bowen spread a stack of maps and screenshots on the table, and the blueprint of the old shipyard spread out like a spider web. Look here, the abandoned area on the edge of Pudong, the edge stronghold of the Time Shadow Society. It is a shabby warehouse on the surface, with a laboratory hidden inside. The rune door that Shaoli mentioned is under the main building. He pointed to a blurry satellite image, his eyes flashing with excitement. I hacked the city surveillance last night, nothing unusual, but they must be on guard. Haoran, you telepathically explore the way. Ming-Chi, precognition is on duty. I am responsible for hacking and getting their database. Lin Haoran leaned back in his chair and rubbed his temples, the sirens of the bank robbery still echoing in his mind. After he went home last night, he lay in bed and tossed and turned. There was a mountain of reports at work, and he had to have a meeting tomorrow. Okay, but I can't make a big show of it. I have to balance this mess. If I'm late for work, my boss will get mad. He looked at Meng-Chi, who was sipping coffee with her head down, with fatigue hidden in her eyes. Did you predict this infiltration? What are the pitfalls? Meng-Chi nodded, her voice soft but firm. There is a trap. In the underground passage, 2 guards will use time delay to jump over. But if we go around the ventilation pipe on the left, we can avoid it. There is their plan in the database. On a large scale, it will cause the city's timeline to collapse, like an hourglass leaking light, and everything will be reset. She paused and held Lin Haoran's hand. Haoran, don't be brave this time. We are a team. Bowen slapped the table and laughed. Listen, this is my Superman partner talking. Let's go, midnight operation. Haoran, is your watch fully charged? Don't get stuck halfway. The three clinked glasses, and the air was filled with determination and the bitterness of coffee. Lin Haoran thought to himself, from the accident a month ago to now, he is no longer a novice fighting alone. Learning to rely on Bowen's head and Ming-Chi's eyes feels like an extra layer of armor. At midnight, fog filled the air around the old shipyard, scrap iron piled up like mountains, and the distant sea breeze blew with a salty smell. Bowen parked the car in a hidden place, and the three of them changed into black clothes. Haoran put on his watch and felt it pulse slightly, responding to his heartbeat like a living thing. Communication is on, Bowen whispered, his voice clear in the earphones. I'll hack the peripheral sensors first. Haoran, lift us over the fence with your telekinesis. Ming-Chi, keep an eye on the prediction. Lin Haoran took a deep breath, stretched out his mind like an invisible hand, gently lifted the three of them, and landed over the rusty iron net. The feet stepped on the gravel, almost silently. They sneaked along the base of the wall, and Meng-Chi suddenly pulled Haoran's sleeve. Stop, patrol on the right, turn around in 10 seconds. Sure enough, a flashlight flashed across them, and they passed by the wall. Bowen whispered from behind, awesome. This is much more exciting than the last spy game I played. The side door of the main building was hidden behind vines. Lin Haoran used his mind to push aside the branches and leaves, revealing the rune, the hourglass pattern of time, with lines twisted like whirlpools. He turned on the watch, turned the crown, and the door lock clicked open, filling the air with the smell of old engine oil. "Go in," Haoran whispered. "Bowen, look for the data port." The underground passage is dark and narrow, with winding pipes on the wall and light bulbs flickering like will-o'-the-wisps. Meng-Chi took the lead, turned left to avoid the infrared network. Haoran reached forward with his mind and gently pushed a loose stone to confirm safety. The three of them slipped into the control room. Bowen knelt down and connected his homemade hacking device. The screen lit up and the passwords danced like raindrops. "Give me 3 minutes," he murmured. "Their firewall is like paper." "Ha, got in." Haoran stood guard at the door, sensing the movement around him with his mind. Meng-Chi leaned against the wall, closing her eyes and predicting, "The guards are coming, 2 of them, from the back door." As soon as she finished speaking, footsteps sounded outside the door. Haoran turned around, and the blog post in his earphones hurriedly said, "Data downloading." Their plan. Oh my God, the Time Shadow Society is going to use the supernatural array to collapse the city's timeline. The distortion of the leader can expand to the entire Pudong, creating an eternal cycle, trapping people in repeated disasters. Cultural relics are keys that can amplify abilities. "Haoran, hold them back." The door slammed open, and 2 guards rushed in. One waved an electric baton, and the ring in the other's hand flashed, and the time delay was activated. Their figures lengthened, approaching like slow motion. Haoran's heart beats faster. This is a new challenge. He stopped panicking and recalled his training, using allies and combining abilities. Turn the crown to partially slow down time, making the guards' movements slower, and the air sticks to them like glue. At the same time, mind power surged out to assist in slowing down. He locked the trajectory of the electric baton, pulled it in reverse, and threw the stick back to the guard's face. "Ah!" The first guard groaned. The electric baton hit his chin, causing time-delayed disintegration. He fell to the ground and twitched. Haoran's heart flashed. This combination, the power of mind, is like an anchor, fixing the boundary of slowing down and making the effect precise. He jumped up and pushed the second guard's ring with his mind, slowing down the spread of ripples and only affecting a small area of the floor. The cracks were like broken ice. The guard stared. "How did you do that?" Haoran got close and knocked him unconscious with a punch and telekinesis. "Teamwork, buddy." Bowen unplugged the device and stuffed it into his backpack. "Download complete. Let's go." But at the end of the passage, a figure flashed up, a middle-level cadre with a straight suit and scars on his face like clock marks. He threw out a grenade-like device, causing time ripples to explode, the surrounding walls to twist, and rocks to float. "Masked boy, it's you again. You can't destroy the leader's plan." Haoran slowed down the ripples and pulled Bowen and Meng-Chi back with his mind, but the cadre had already slipped into the side door and said, "This is just the beginning, time will swallow up your city." The 3 of them rushed out of the shipyard, the night wind blowing on their faces, and Bowen gasped, "That data. They want to use the core of the old shipyard to build an array and collapse the timeline. Like a black hole, it sucks in everything and resets it." "Haoran, your combo moves are so cool." Meng-Chi nodded, her face pale. "He escaped, but he left clues. He will be more ruthless next time." Lin Haoran drove them home, replaying the battle in his mind. From the novice swiping around to the current strategic allocation, he felt that he had changed. Not a Superman, but a hero who can use his brain. The blogger arrived first, and he patted Haoran on the shoulder. "Brother, are you talking about strategy all night?" "I have beer in my studio." Haoran shook his head. "I have to sleep when I go to work tomorrow." "But you first look at the data and find weaknesses." "I have learned not to carry it alone anymore." Before getting out of the car, Bowen handed over the data disk. "Okay, engineer mode is on. Meng-Chi, you should also go to bed early." Meng-Chi finally got off the car and stopped downstairs of Haoran's house. She looked into his tired eyes and whispered, Haoran, you protected us today. But heroes can also get tired. Come in and sit down. The lighting in the living room was soft. Lin Haoran collapsed on the sofa. Bowen called via video call, and the three of them discussed it all night long. The data on the screen scrolled, and Bowen pointed at the chart. The core of the array is deep in the shipyard, and Shuriang will use superpowers to provide energy. The weak point is the energy source, those cultural relics. We have to cut off the supply. Haoran nodded and analyzed. You can't forcefully break through. Meng Qi foresees the entrance. I will block the road with my mind, and you will cut off the power. The division of labor is clear, like a work project. Bowen laughed. Look, Haoran has become a strategist. He is no longer a rookie Superman. Meng Qi smiled and handed Haoran a cup of hot tea. You have made progress. But don't forget to rest. Your eyes are red, as if you stayed up late to report. She sat close and touched his shoulder lightly. I know that kind of fatigue. I have always felt lonely when I was running away since I was a child. But now, with you, I am not afraid anymore. What about you? Are you tired of being a hero? Lin Haoran held the teacup and felt warm in his heart. Yeah, I have meetings during the day and fights at night. It's hard to balance, but with your comfort, I can hold on. Bowen yawned on the screen. Hey, don't be stupid, I'm still counting here. Haoran, remember to use us, my gadget, your telepathy and watch, an invincible combination. Go to sleep, don't be late for work tomorrow. The video turned off and Meng Qi stood up. I'm leaving. Good night, Haoran. Don't think too much in your dreams. After she left, Lin Haoran locked the door and went to bed. Exhaustion set in and he fell asleep quickly. But dreams flooded in. The tall buildings in the city were distorted, the timeline collapsed, the crowd screamed repeatedly, the streets collapsed like hourglasses, and everything turned back into ashes. Mingqi's parents were trapped in a car accident cycle, he himself was swallowed by the ripples, and his watch shattered. No! He woke up with a start, his clothes wet with sweat. The sky outside the window was dimly lit. Lin Haoran sat up and realized the scale of the crisis. It was not a small street fight, it was the end of the entire city. He took a deep breath and put on his watch. From now on, he was the strategist. The work continues, the investigation accelerates, and the team pulls together. The phone vibrated, and the blog message read, Morning. Data analysis, array weakness locked. Action plan, come to me? Haoran replied, come. Superman breakfast, later meeting. He stood up, his eyes were firm in the mirror, and he was progressing step by step on the road to heroism. Lin Haoran pushed open the door of the studio. Bowen was already buried in front of the keyboard. There were data disks and a bunch of circuit boards scattered next to the coffee cup. Sunlight streamed in through the cracks in the curtains, illuminating the familiar face. Bowen raised his head and grinned. Good morning, strategist. Come on, Superman's breakfast. I cooked instant noodles with eggs, guaranteed to be as good as the company cafeteria. Haoran took off his shoes and walked in. Smelling the familiar spicy smell, he couldn't help laughing. You are an engineer, even breakfast is like modifying a machine. How is the data? Is the array weakness locked? Bowen pushed a bowl over and pulled him to sit down. It's locked. The core energy source of the Time Shadow Society is those cultural relics hidden underground in Pudong. Their plan is to build a large array to permanently distort the timeline and make the city like a broken clock, stuck in a cycle of disaster forever. The leader is hidden deep, but Shaoli last night another message, they may try some tricks to distract their attention. Meng Qi came from behind the sofa, holding a tablet in her hand, her face looking better than last night. I dreamed that there would be chaos in the city, and there would be a series of car accidents, but Haoran, you are the key to stabilizing the situation. Haoran picked up a mouthful of noodles, and the nightmare from last night flashed through his mind. Okay, let's divide the work. Bowen, you monitor the whole city. Meng Qi, predict the hot spots. I'll keep an eye out for abnormalities on the way to work. We can't let them succeed. The three of them were chatting while eating, and Bowen's cell phone suddenly buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression changed. Wait, the urban surveillance is abnormal. The main roads in Pudong, the traffic lights are all messed up. The red light turns green, the green light flashes red. Oh my God, this is interference from their powers. Haoran's heart tightened. He threw away the bowl and chopsticks, and grabbed his coat. I'll go to the scene. You provide backup. Meng Qi pulled his sleeves, her eyes eager. Be careful, there is a dark shadow controlling the lights in the dream. He is in the middle, and the ring can delay the signal. The leader location. I saw him deep in the old shipyard, guarding the array blueprint. Bowen turned on the computer, and the drone screen popped up. Haoran, have you checked the watch? After the battle last night, it had unstable pulses. Haoran looked down at his watch, which trembled slightly, as if he was gasping for air. It's a little damaged, but I can hold on. Let's go. He rushed out and drove straight to Pudong Avenue. The traffic flow on the road was as usual, but he felt uneasy. From bank robberies to shipyard infiltrations, Tokage would become more and more arrogant. Is this an open provocation? When they turned onto the main road, Haoran took a breath of cold air. There was chaos ahead. A truck lost control and hit the roadside guardrail, sending debris flying. The car behind it braked suddenly, its tires squealed, and the series of rear-end collisions was like a volcano erupting. Traffic lights flashed wildly, red and green alternated irregularly. Drivers cursed, some got out of the car and punched, others held their heads and screamed. The smell of burnt rubber hung in the air, and police sirens loomed in the distance. Haoran slammed on the brakes and stopped on the side of the road. The voice of Bowen in the earphones was urgent. Haoran. The drone footage showed that there were supernatural runes on the light poles, flashing time vortex. At least 10 cars were paralyzed, and the injured were everywhere. Do it quickly. Copy that. Haoran took a deep breath, put on his watch, and jumped out of the car door. Someone in the crowd recognized him. A video of a masked hero circulated online after the last bank incident. He shouted, "Don't panic, everyone! Back off, I'll hold on." A middle-aged driver's eyes widened. Are you that time boy? Save my wife, she's stuck in the car. Haoran nodded, his thoughts surged out, and he first explored the nearest collision point. An SUV rolled over, the wheels were still spinning, and the woman inside was covering her head with blood. He turned the crown, partially slowing down the flow of time. The air around him was like gel, debris hovered, and the wheels stopped slowly. The power of thought stretched, clamping the car body like invisible pliers, gently lifting it, and removing the metal block pressing on the woman's leg. Hold on. Haoran whispered. The slowdown in time allowed him to move accurately, and his telekinesis effortlessly pulled her out and placed her in a safe area. The woman gasped, thank you, you are a hero." Mobile phones flashed around, the media van had arrived, and the reporter shouted, "Guardian of Time. Give us the camera." Haoran had no time to pay attention. Meng Qi's voice sounded in the earphones. "Haoran, there is a black shadow on the top of the light pole on the left. He controls 3 light groups, which will cause a bigger chain. Foreknowledge, if you slow down the entire road section, he will counterattack and use delay to bounce over." The blog interjected, "The drone is locked on him. He is tall and thin, wearing a ring. I will send an interference signal and paralyze his runes. But your watch, the screen shows that it is hot, don't overload." Haoran rushed to the light pole, lifted himself up with his mind, and jumped onto the street lamp. The black shadow turned around, and it was the scar-faced cadre of the shipyard. He sneered, "Another bad thing? This is just an appetizer. The distortion of the leader will make your city repeat this hell forever." He threw out the ring, the time delay ripples spread, the lights were distorted, and a bus slid out of control from behind. Haoran's heartbeat quickened. This is an extreme test. A thought flashed through his mind. He couldn't forcefully take advantage of the team. "Bowen, interfere now!" Haoran shouted, while turning the crown to the maximum, partially freezing the edge of the ripple so that the delay only affects the light pole itself. The drone buzzed and flew closer, and Bowen's voice was excited. "Launch. My little toy is paralyzed with half a rune." The lights flickered uncertainly, the black shadow stretched out, and its movements were slow. Haoran's mind locked his arm, pulled the ring in reverse, and the ripples collapsed. The bus stopped slowly. Haoran jumped off, and pushed away the obstacles on the road with his mind. A flying hood was thrown away, saving 2 fleeing passers-by. The scene gradually stabilized. Haoran was panting, and his clothes were soaked with sweat. The watch is hot and cracks are looming on the surface. This is his limit. The slowing range is extended to 100 meters, and his telekinesis consumes as much energy as fire. But he felt a change. He was no longer a reckless novice, but a warrior who could predict and combine. The crowd gathered around, and flashlights rained down. Guardian of time. How did you do it? A female reporter approached. Reveal your identity, hero. The city needs you. Haoran hesitated, and his voice was firm under the mask. I'm not a big hero, I'm just a guy passing by. Remember, life has to go on after the crisis. He turned around and avoided the camera, feeling pressure rising in his heart. Publicity meant exposing his true identity, and office worker Lin Haoran's life would be over. You have to learn to hide, like a two-faced person. The black shadow fell to the ground, and Haoran tied his hands and feet with his mind and dragged him to the police car on the roadside. The police arrived, and Haoran whispered, "This guy is from the Shuriing Society, force him to tell the truth." The police officer nodded. "Thanks to you, the casualties are limited to 20 people." Bowen said in the earphone, "Haoran, the watch is seriously damaged. I will send the stabilizer data remotely. Come back, and I will repair it." The drone has also detected movement in the shipyard, and they are accelerating the array. Meng Qi's voice followed, gentle and worried. "Haoran, are you okay?" In the prediction, you were almost swallowed by the ripples. But you held steady. I was so worried. Haoran walked back and said, "Hold on. Great credit to the team, your prediction saved half the street." She chuckled. "It wasn't me, it was you. Ever since I met you, I no longer rely solely on dreams to escape. Sometimes I dream that we are not just fighting, like ordinary people, drinking tea and chatting. It feels so warm. Ming-Chi, I am lonely too, but with you, the hint is obvious enough, right?" The blog interrupted. "Hey, I'll leave the disgusting for later. The shadow is awake, and the police are interrogating. He is tricked. The bigger conspiracy is to permanently distort the city's time, lock Pudong with an array, and trap everyone in a disaster cycle for them to control. The cultural relics of the leader can magnify all this, like an eternal hourglass, leaking endless disasters." Haoran got in the car. The engine roared. "Damn, this is worse than expected. Go back to the studio, repair your watch, and plan a counterattack." On the way, Haoran caught a glimpse of the rearview mirror. The media car was chasing him, and the title flashed. "The Guardian of Time reappears, thwarting the terrorist attack of Time Shadow." He smiled bitterly, took off his mask, and rubbed his face. The hero is revealed, but Haoran is hidden. This is a new topic. The phone vibrated and Meng Qi sent a message, "Safety first. Let's drink that unfinished cup of tea when you come back." Bowen added, "I'll prepare the tools and cook the second round of instant noodles. Hero, don't be late to our situation room." Haoran accelerated, and the city skyline stretched in the rear view. The midpoint of the crisis has passed, but the real battle has just begun. Deep in the shipyard, the shadow of the leader swayed like a pendulum, waiting for them. When Haoran pushed open the studio door, Bowen was squatting on the workbench, the flame of the welding gun flashing, and the disassembled watch part in his hand had been modified by him to look like a science fiction prop. The air was filled with the smell of solder and coffee. Meng Qi leaned on the sofa and closed her eyes slightly, as if capturing some blurry scene. Haoran threw off his coat and sat down with a gasp. There is a lot of movement at the shipyard. The black shadow has moved. Their array prototype is under the old shipyard. The leader is personally in charge, so we must act quickly. Bowen raised his head, wiped his sweat, and grinned. The hero is back. Drink some water first, don't die of thirst on the road. I have preliminary repaired the watch and added a stabilization module to slow down the time without burning my brain. But don't be brave. After the farce in Pudong, the internet exploded. The nickname Time Boy was trending. He pushed a cup of hot coke. Haoran took it and took a sip. The company is in big trouble. I was late for a long time, and my supervisor sent me a message to ask if I was sick, saying that I had something to do at home. Meng Qi opened her eyes, and her voice was soft but worried. Shall I make up a story for you? You said you had a bad cold and couldn't get up from bed. Haoran shook his head, dialed the company phone, and put it on speakerphone. The supervisor's voice came with obvious suspicion. Lin Haoran, you have been elusive this week. There was a disturbance near the bank yesterday, and you asked for leave today? The company is not a charity, and there is great performance pressure. Do you want to resign? Haoran took a deep breath and pretended to have a weak nasal voice. Director, I really didn't mean it. I had a bad stomach last night and had diarrhea in the middle of the night. I'm still dizzy now. Give me 2 days and I'll make up for it. The supervisor snorted. Okay, but don't let me down. I heard that there are heroes saving people in the city. You're not the kind of person who likes to join in the fun, are you? After hanging up the phone, Haoran breathed a sigh of relief. Blog posts were already flying on the keyboard. I'll cover it up. I hacked into your company's intranet, changed your clock-in records, and added a fake doctor's certificate. Don't worry, technical work is my specialty. Meng Qi smiled. He smiled. You two always seem to be playing a spy game. Haoran, the workplace is stressful, but with our support, don't bear it forcefully. Haoran nodded, feeling warm in his heart. From being a single person to being a team now, this change makes him feel less lonely. In the past, he would only work overtime, but now he is learning to use his strength. Bowen took out 2 small devices from the drawer. One was a palm-sized metal ball, and the other was a wristband-type jammer. Come on, upgrade the equipment. My homemade weapon specializes in the time tricks of the Shadow Club. This ball is a pulse bomb that can paralyze supernatural runes with a radius of 10 meters. The wristband is connected to a watch to amplify your telekinesis output, but it needs to be recharged when used up. He took it, tried on the wristband, and felt a chill running down his arm. Yes, it feels like I have an extra pair of invisible hands. Thanks, brother. Bowen patted him on the shoulder. It's a small thing. Drone reconnaissance showed that there is an entrance underground to the shipyard, entering from the abandoned warehouse of the old dock. The leader was debugging the array there, and the blueprints are full of ancient runes, which look like they were stolen from a museum. Meng Qi suddenly frowned, held her head and murmured, Wait a minute. I see the branches. She closed her eyes and said intermittently, There are many ways. Haoran, you sneak in to destroy the core device, and your mind power can blow up the energy source. But there is a trap, and the time vortex will pull you into the loop. Repeat the moment forever. Another one, you sacrifice yourself to stabilize the array, allowing us to escape. Another one, all of us, the leader appears, but the edge of the city collapses. Her face turned pale, sweat dripped from her forehead, and the overload of prediction made her breathless. Haoran quickly held her hand. Meng Qi, stop. Don't force yourself. She opened her eyes with complicated expressions. Haoran, this time is really dangerous. I dreamed that you fell into the blue light to save us. But there is a good ending. You hold on, we destroy them. Bowen turned off the welding gun and became serious. Sacrifice? Are you kidding? We are a team, not a tragedy script. Haoran, listen, don't act like a hero, we act in synchrony. I used the drone to open the way, you are the main attack. Meng Qi foresees the rear and avoids branches. Haoran nodded, and a sense of determination surged in his heart. In the past, he was always afraid of injuring others, but now he understands that sacrifice is not one person's business, and must be shouldered together. He hugged Meng Qi and said, I won't let that dream come true. With your foreknowledge, I can choose the right path. Let's go, we will see the truth at the shipyard. As night falls, the old shipyard looks like a ghost, with rusted containers piled into a maze, and the sea breeze carries a salty smell. Haoran sneaked in alone and slipped in through the side door of the abandoned warehouse. Bowen whispered in the earphone, the drone picture is clean, the entrance is at the left corner. Be careful, the heat sense shows that there are 5 guards underground. Haoran nodded, swiped his mind, held up an iron plate, and moved it away silently. As the passage goes down, the humid air hits your face, and the walls are covered with ancient runes, like ghosts crawling out of Dunhuang murals. Meng Qi's voice sounded, "Prediction, if you go straight, you will encounter a patrol. It is safe to turn right, but the runes will sense your watch." He turned right, his steps as light as a cat, his wristband buzzing, and his amplified telekinesis made him feel that the objects around him were like extended limbs. The underground laboratory gradually appeared. The core of the array with flashing blue light was like a giant hourglass, the vortex inside was slowly rotating, the surrounding instruments were buzzing, and the leader's back was in front of the console, a middle-aged man, wearing an ancient necklace, muttering to himself, "The legacy will eventually wake up, and this city will become our eternal domain." Haoran was shocked. This place is not just about modern technology. The reliefs on the wall show that the Time Shadow will originate from the ancient supernatural heritage, the descendants of the Time Guardians from the Qin and Han dynasties, who degenerated into madmen who controlled disasters. "Bowen, confirm the target. The energy source of the array is in the center. I will try to destroy it." Haoran whispered, sneaking closer to the core. The power of thought is like an invisible net, wrapped around the energy crystal. The wristband heats up, and pulls with force. The cracks in the crystal expanded, the blue light trembled, and the head turned around with cold eyes. "Intruder?" It turns out to be that Time boy. The inheritance is not something you can touch. He threw out the necklace, and the time trap was activated. The surrounding air was distorted, and Haoran felt that his body was being pulled into the vortex, and the movements were repeated, steps forward, then back, an eternal cycle like a nightmare. The watch became hot and the cracks deepened. He gritted his teeth. "Damn, this is an ancient delay technique." Bowen shouted in the earphone, "Haoran! The pulse bomb is launched, the drone is in place." The small metal ball rolled into the edge of the trap, exploding electromagnetic waves, and the runes flickered and disintegrated. Haoran took advantage of the opportunity, exploded with his mind power, pushed away from the edge of the vortex, and finally broke free. But the leader had counterattacked, and ripples from the necklace swept towards him. Haoran dodged sideways and hit the instrument, causing a sharp pain in his shoulder. Meng Qi's voice was urgent, "Haoran, back off. The branch of prediction has changed. He wants to target you, but Bowen can paralyze his necklace." "Hold on, I'm here to help." Bowen's operation was timely. The jammer was shot from the drone, and the necklace's light dimmed. Haoran gasped and stood up. His mind power became more refined, no longer rough pushing and pulling, but precise cutting. He locked on the remnants of the crystal and twisted it violently. The array roared and the blue light scattered. The leader retreated, his face livid. "You destroyed the prototype. But the inheritance does not end here. The key of time brought back by our ancestors from the Silk Road will make you regret it." He pressed the alarm, and the guards rushed in. Haoran swept away with his mind, lifted the shelves and smashed them into the passage, blocking the pursuers. Meng Qi and Bowen rushed in from the side door. Her face was pale. She was shaken by the overload just now, but her eyes were firm. "Haoran, I'm fine. In the premonition, you should have sacrificed, but the team changed your fate." Bowen helped Haoran up and handed over the spare energy bar. "Evacuate quickly. The drone blew up the exit, they can't catch up." As the three retreated, Haoran looked back at the leader's shadow. "This legacy sounds like a double-edged sword. Why did you fall to controlling disaster?" The leader sneered, "Because the city is our hourglass, never-ending chaos." After escaping from the shipyard, the sea breeze blew away the smell of gunpowder smoke. Haoran leaned against the container, his shoulder pain aching, but new strength surged in his heart. This time, he learned that sacrifice is not the end, but the beginning of perseverance. His abilities are more precise, and his telekinesis is as smooth as an old friend. Emotionally, Meng Qi's handshake and Bowen's pat on the shoulder made him understand that a hero is not a lone ranger. Bowen gasped and laughed. "Next time I will bring more bombs." "Haoran, that cutting move you just made was so cool." Meng Qi said softly, We won this round, but the leader escaped. His legacy still has a backup plan. Haoran nodded and looked at the city lights, then continued chasing. As long as the team is there, there is hope. They slipped into the car, the engine roared, and in the night, the high-rise buildings in Pudong looked like watchmen. The crisis is far from over, but Haoran's determination is turning steadily like a watch. The car was speeding through the night, and the neon lights of Pudong flashed across the car window like shooting stars. Haoran rubbed the wound on his shoulder, and Bowen's breathing echoed in his headphones. Haoran, don't drive too fast. There will be no tail behind you, but those lunatics in the organization must be furious. Once the shipyard is destroyed and their prototype is finished, they will probably jump over the wall. Bowen poked his head from the back seat and handed over a bottle of mineral water with his signature smile on his face. Drink some to replenish your blood. Your telepathic cutting just now was like the shadowless hand in a martial arts movie. I even wanted to make a TikTok of you. Haoran took the water, gulped it down, and smiled bitterly. Doane? The internet has already regarded me as an urban legend. The company still has to tell the lies myself. Mingqi, what do you think will happen next? Mingqi was sitting in the passenger seat, her pale face looked soft under the streetlight. She gently held her hand Haoran's arm. Take a brief breather, but they will fight back. Around the city landmark, the Oriental Pearl Tower, there are fluctuations of supernatural power. It's like an army gathering. Her voice was soft, but with a firmness that could not be ignored. Haoran felt that the warmth was like a warm current, which relieved his fatigue. As soon as he finished speaking, the mobile phone alarm blared, the city's radio rang, emergency notice. An unusual incident occurred near the Oriental Pearl Tower. Citizens are asked to avoid it. The police have been dispatched. Haoran stepped on the accelerator and the car turned to the inner ring. Here it comes. A comprehensive counterattack is organized, and the landmark is their target. Blog, drone preparation, Mingqi, keep an eye on the prediction. Let's go to the scene and guard the base of the tower. Bowen clicked on the laptop and a real-time map popped up on the screen. Roger, hero leader. I hacked into the city and the screen showed. Damn. There are people with telekinesis and flame control coming out from the foot of the tower. When they arrived, the Oriental Pearl Tower had become a battlefield. The lights on the tower flickered, tourists screamed and scattered, and the air was filled with the smell of burning electricity. The organized supernatural legion came like a tide, led by a strong man who looked like a boss, with runes tattooed on his body, and his hands summoned metal fragments to shoot at the defense line like bullets. The police cordon was crumbling, and a group of special police officers were blocked by telekinetic walls, with bullets hanging in the air. Haoran jumped out of the car, and the time watch started buzzing. He took a deep breath, and his mind expanded like an invisible network. Bowen, you hacked the system from behind and paralyzed their communications. Mingqi, predict the weakness. I will open the buffer zone. Go up. Protect the base of the tower and don't let them climb up. Haoran shouted, leading the team to rush into the melee. The time watch stabilizes the operation of the module. It partially freezes the air around the foot of the tower, and the flow of time slows down to a stalemate. The movements of the supernatural army become sluggish, and the bullets are suspended in midair like slow motion. Haoran's heart flashed. In the past, I always defended passively, but now I have to take the initiative. After amplifying his telepathy, he commanded his allies, Bowen, leave the flame man on the left to you. Mingqi, the telepathy hand on the right, predict his attack path. Bowen rushed to a police car, and the screen of his laptop flew. It's time for engineering miracles. Black out their rune center. These guys use old-style encryption, like the DOS system of the last century. Childish. His fingers were tapping like a pianist, and the enemy's communication was instantly disconnected, and the Legion members shouted to each other, the signal is gone. Mingqi closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them her eyes were sharp. Haoran, the rune weakness of the mid-boss is on the chest. It is camouflaged by flames but the core is time delay. He will lock your trajectory in 3 seconds and dodge left first. She pulled Haoran's sleeve, her voice was trembling but gentle, be careful, I I can't watch you fall anymore. These days, with you and Bowen, I feel like I'm not fighting alone. Haoran's heart warmed, and he shook her hand. Ming-Chi, me too. From the beginning of confusion, to now, we have changed our destiny together. Thank you. At that moment, warmth flashed in the flames of war, and he felt that the hero's self-confidence was no longer a lonely struggle, but a leader of the team. The battle takes place on multiple fronts. Bowen threw a pulse bomb, blowing up a wave of fire attacks, and shouted while retreating, Haoran, watch my hacker show. Their Legion AI is paralyzed, and now it's like a headless fly. Haha, if the boss of the organization knew that I had used a virus to defeat his high technology, I must be so angry that I vomited blood. His humor resolved the panic in the air. A young special police officer couldn't help but laugh. Brother, are you here to save the scene or to do a talk show? Bowen blinked. You're right. Treat me to hot pot next time. Haoran locked onto the boss, and the strong man rushed towards him with a roar, metal fragments raining down like a torrential rain. Haoran's mind power cuts through the air, accurately blocking the attack, and the time buffer halves the speed of the fragments. He dodged and moved to the left, just as Ming-Chi predicted. The brawny man's delay spell failed. Boy, you destroyed the shipyard, this time I will crush your watch with my own hands. Haoran sneered, heritage is not your toy. Bowen, interfere with his runes. Bowen responded immediately. The wristband device fired electromagnetic waves, and the runes on the boss's chest flickered and shattered, and his movements were stagnant. Haoran seized the opportunity and stabbed his mind like a sharp blade, cutting off the metal armor on his arm. The strong man knelt down and spit out a mouthful of blood. You don't know the leader's plan. Haoran stepped forward, searched with his mind, and fished out a small chip from the boss's arms, the core technology of the organization. The blueprint showed that it was a backup module of the time array, which could remotely control the city's power grid. Bowen, this is the key. Hack it and reverse engineer their backhand. Bowen took it and his eyes lit up. Good stuff. This chip has Qin and Han rune codes. I can change it into our firewall. Well done, hero. The middle boss gasped and glared at him. It's too late. The leader's ultimate weapon has been activated on the top of the tower. The key of time will reset the entire city and trap it in a cycle forever. Before he finished speaking, a blue light bloomed on the top of the tower, and the leader's voice came from the loudspeaker, as ghastly as a ghost. Little time boy, do you think you will win by destroying the prototype? The true meaning of legacy is domination. Look carefully, this is the ultimate form of the Silk Road ancient key, the time collapser. The tower body trembled, a giant vortex formed at the top, the air was twisted, the surrounding buildings were bent like candles, and the street lights were flickering. The citizens screamed, and Ming-Chi held her head and whispered, prediction, the branches split. Haoran, we have to go up to the tower and stop it. But there is a risk, you will be sucked into the core. Haoran stood up straight, the pain of his shoulder injury turned into fuel, his mind power and time watch synchronized, and his sensory abilities were integrated into one. No, this time I take the initiative to attack. Team, follow me. Bowen, seal the base of the tower. Ming-Chi, your precognition is our compass. The three of them rushed to the elevator side by side. The remnant with supernatural powers tried to stop them, but Haoran's telekinesis swept away like a storm, lifting the truck and smashing the enemy away. Bowen ran and laughed. Haoran, you look like Superman now. You hesitated for a long time before, but now you directly use your big move. The team buff is so powerful. Ming-Chi said softly to Haoran, I love this feeling, with you here, we are invincible. Haoran nodded, and the growth in his heart was as clear as a watch. From an ordinary person who defends to a hero who controls the situation, this transformation makes him full of confidence. The lights in the tower swayed, and the suction of the vortex became stronger and stronger. The shadow of the leader loomed on the top floor, and the blue light reflected his sneer. Come on, let me see how long you can last. The elevator door opened, and the storm hid his face. Haoran took a deep breath, and the time watch made a low beep, preparing to fight back. As soon as the elevator door opened, strong wind mixed with arcs of blue light hit his face. Haoran instinctively raised his arms, opening his mind like a shield to block the impact of the distorted air. The sightseeing floor at the top of the tower was in ruins, with shattered glass all over the floor. The time collapser in the center was buzzing like a giant crystal pendulum, with ancient runes engraved on its surface, and the surrounding air curved into ripples. The leader stood next to the device, his tall and thin figure wrapped in a black robe, with a half-mask on his face, and his eyes stared at them like dead fish. It came so fast, Lin Haoran. Your watch is a fragment of inheritance, but you use it like a cheap toy. Join me, otherwise this city will be reset to ashes. Haoran gritted his teeth and stabilized his body. The dial of the time watch was spinning crazily. He felt that the local time flow was accelerating in his body, and his heartbeat was like a drum. Toy. This is my destiny, not your experiment. Bowen, scan the security. Mingqi, find the weakness. Let's get to the core. Bowen squatted by the door, his laptop was connected to the network in the tower, and dense codes popped up on the screen. Received, take it. Sleeve. The security of this tower is quantum encryption, and I have to bypass the firewall. Damn, these guys are using ancient silk code, mixed with Han and Tang dynasty runes, and it looks like cracking the ancient tomb mechanism. His fingers were flying, and he complained, Haoran, you are still working overtime at work, and you have to hack the system. Speaking of which, what will happen to your company? Haoran dodged a time ripple shot from the device, which caused the floor to instantly age into powder. A thought flashed through his mind, the blog post is right. I used to struggle between my career and my career as a hero, but now it's time to stop. He held up a piece of broken glass with his mind, reflected the blue light, and forced back the two organization guards who rushed up. Bowen, concentrate. I will have to resign from the company sooner or later and focus on this path. Mingqi, how about precognition? Mingqi knelt down, pressing her temples with both hands, anticipating the flood of dreams. She gasped and opened her eyes. The leader's weakness is under the mask, and the backlash of time will make him temporarily lose control. But the device has 3 layers of defense. The first layer is a mental barrier, and the weak point is at the east support column. The first layer of the flame wall can be hacked. The third layer. If someone is shaken inside, a guard will defect, but you have to give him a chance. Her voice was tired, but her eyes were firm, and she pulled Haoran's clothes. Haoran, believe that we are not fighting alone. The leader laughed, waved his sleeves, and the blue light turned into vines and wrapped around the 3 of them. Little trick. My crash device has been connected to the city power grid. Within 10 minutes, Pudong will fall into a time loop and repeat this moment of chaos forever. Haoran shouted, go! Bowen, break the first place first. Layer. Bowen nodded, and the wristband device fired an electromagnetic pulse, hitting the east support pillar, the engineer's moment of glory. This pillar has a hidden circuit. I short-circuited it. Bang! The pillar exploded with sparks, and the telepathy barrier shattered like glass, revealing a gap. Haoran seized the opportunity and switched the time watch to slow mode, partially freezing the vines and making them as slow as an old cow. His mind power exploded, and his invisible hands clamped the prototype component on the edge of the device like giant pincers. A flashing time core, densely covered with runes, like an enlarged version of an ancient pocket watch. Haoran, be careful of the flames. Mingqi screamed. The second layer of defense activated, a wall of fire shot up from the ground, and the heat wave was overwhelming. Bowen threw a pulse bomb and exploded the source of fire. Hacker plus bomb, 2-pronged approach. Their flames are electromagnetically induced. I cut off the power supply. It's done. The wall of fire collapsed. Haoran took advantage of the situation and rushed forward, his telekinesis and time running simultaneously. He felt that his ability was as smooth as melting ice. Time slowed down to expose the core. Telekinesis cut as accurately as a laser. With a click, the prototype shattered into powder, and the blue light dimmed. The leader's face turned pale. Impossible. How do you penetrate the defense line? During the battle, an organization guard, a young man with half-finished runes tattooed on his body, suddenly stopped, threw away his weapon, and rushed to Haoran. Wait a minute. I am a mole, and I have wanted to betray you since the shipyard. You destroyed the prototype, and I have evidence. The leader's plan is more than this. He wants to use the collapse device to restart the entire Silk Road legacy and enslave all people with powers. He gasped and handed over a data stick. This is the blueprint of the headquarters. The back door is in the underground level. But the leader has a backup plan. He took the hostage. Before he finished speaking, the leader shot out a time chain, wrapped around the guard's neck, and threw him into the wall. Traitor! Lin Haoran, you think you can win if you are unstable inside? In an instant, blue light flashed, and Meng Qi was caught in the ripples of time. The leader's hand grabbed her neck like a ghost and dragged her to the device. Haoran, let's challenge her to a duel. Your team? That boy Bowen is being blocked in the elevator by my remnants. I have long been eyeing this girl's precognition. Give up the watch, otherwise I will reset her to dust first. Meng Qi struggled. Her face was pale, but she shouted to Haoran, Haoran, leave me alone. Use your growth, we have predicted this branch, and you can win. Her voice was broken, and tears were shining in her eyes. Haoran's heart was like a knife, the fear of loss came like a tide. I used to be afraid of having nothing, but now I understand that a hero is not invincible, but one who dares to face it. Bowen rushed out of the elevator, sweating profusely. The drone circled around to protect his body. Haoran, I'll block the back. The traitor is right. The blueprint shows that the headquarters is in the secret room under the tower. We have to go straight to it. But the bastard, the leader. As he spoke, he hacked the communications of the remnant party. The members of the organization were in chaos. Some people began to defect, throwing weapons and shouting, the leader. Crazy! We are not for dominance, but for power. The melee escalated, and the top of the tower was as noisy as a vegetable market. Haoran took a deep breath, the time hand reached its peak, and the dial was as stable as a heartbeat. He felt that his mind power expanded to the limit, no longer cutting, but reshaping. Fearlessness came to his heart, and he learned to lead, not to order, but to believe. Bowen, protect yourself and the mole, and guard the exit. I'll challenge you. Haoran roared, his mind power swept across like a storm, holding up the entire tourist floor's gravel, turning it into a barrage and shooting towards the leader. The leader pushed Meng Qi away, his blue robe bulged, and the time chain counterattacked. Boy, do you think peak ability is enough? The inheritance is mine. Haoran dodged, time slowed down and the chain passed by, and he had a short inner monologue, no longer afraid of losing, because the team is my strength. The power of thought penetrated the mask, cracks appeared, and the true face of the leader was revealed, old and twisted, with crazy eyes. How do you know the weakness? Meng Qi's prediction, coupled with the trust of the team. Haoran sneered, fully activated his combination ability, partially frozen the area around his head, and hit his mind like a hammer. The leader roared, the crasher lit up again, the vortex expanded, the tower shook violently, and Bowen shouted, Haoran, the entrance to the underground headquarters is open. But the vortex is sucking people in, we have to be fast. The inner ghost got up and coughed, the leader's ultimate backhand is in the secret room, the core of the key of time, destroyed it, everything is over. Meng Qi broke away from the chains and rushed towards Haoran. Haoran, I'm fine. Let's go together, we still have a long way to go. Haoran nodded and helped her up, feeling that his growth was as eternal as a watch. From quitting that lifeless job to now leading this battle, he was fearless. The leader retreated to the edge, his mask shattered, and he revealed a sinister smile. This is not the end, Lin Haoran. The shadow of the Silk Road legacy will never dissipate. He jumped into the vortex and disappeared into the blue light. The top of the tower was temporarily calm, but a low roar came from the ground. Haoran clenched his fists. Bowen, Meng Qi, follow me down the tower. The headquarters is waiting for us, this time, let's end it. The three of them rushed towards the stairs, chased by the blue light behind them. Under the city night sky, the Oriental Pearl Tower shone like a beacon, and Haoran's determination was as firm as the stars. The air in the stairwell was as hot as a steamer. Haoran took the lead and ran wildly, making the metal steps buzz with every step. The interior of the Oriental Pearl Tower is like a maze, with blue light seeping from the cracks in the walls, as if the entire structure is breathing. Bowen followed behind, carrying the mole on his shoulder. The kid was still coughing, and the data stick was clutched in his hand. Meng-Chi stood next to Haoran, panting and whispering, "Haoran, the prediction shows that there is an ambush below, but we can get through it. The leader is stalling for time, and his vortex leads to the secret room of the headquarters. Delay time? Then don't give him a chance." Haoran glanced back at her. The dial of the time watch was slightly hot, and he felt that his ability was pulsing like blood. The inner ghost gasped and interjected, "Yes, the secret room is on the 3rd floor below the base of the tower, and the entrance is disguised as an elevator shaft. But there are more than 10 guards at the head, all with enhanced powers. The rune tattoos can distort the senses. Brother Haoran, your telekinesis and time are the legendary Silk Road heritage, right?" Bowen ran and scolded with a smile, "Boy, popular science now? Save your energy, my mobile phone has been connected to the surveillance in the tower, and the guards are outflanking. Haoran, I remotely paralyze their communications and open a way for you." His fingers flew on the mobile phone, the screen flashed, and the remote drone buzzed into the sky, dropping interference signals from the elevator shaft. Haoran nodded and felt warm in his heart. Bowen, this guy, can always stabilize the overall situation in a chaotic situation, just like helping me repair my computer in college. He never loses track. Suddenly, the iron door at the end of the stairs exploded, and a group of black-clad guards rushed out. The runes on the leader's arms flashed, and the air twisted into ripples, heading straight for Meng-Chi. "The prediction is coming." Meng-Chi screamed and pushed Haoran away, but she was half a beat too late. The time ripples were like an invisible hand, drawing her in and disappearing in the blue light in the blink of an eye. Haoran shouted, "Meng-Chi!" He exploded with telepathy and grabbed the ripples with his invisible hands, but only caught air, and the thing slipped away like mercury. "Damn it, it's the leader's trick." The mole's face turned pale. He used time to lock her and pull her into the secret room. "Brother Haoran, you have to go alone, the guards will block the way. Bowen and I will guard here. Bowen can hack the power supply of the base." Bowen patted Haoran on the shoulder. "Go, brother. I paralyze their system, and you focus on saving people. Remember, last time you worked overtime, I gave you midnight snacks, and this time I gave you hacker support. Meng-Chi's prediction said you can do it." Haoran took a deep breath, and the inner shadow surged up like the depression of the old workplace, the fear of losing the team. In the past, he always hid behind his desk, afraid of taking on too much. Now, it's different. He clenched his watch. "Thank you. Guard the exit and I'll bring her back." Haoran jumped down the last few steps and rushed into the elevator shaft at the base of the tower. He used his mind power to propel himself as if he were gliding, avoiding the rune arrows of the guards. The shaft was dark, and the blue light flickered like a will-o'-the-wisp. He switched the time watch to slow down mode, the surrounding air became thicker, and the arrows moved as slowly as a snail. When he landed, the entrance to the secret room was open, and a twisted door rippled like water. The leader's voice came from inside, sarcastic as a knife. "Here you come, Lin Haoran. Your woman is here. If you move, she will be stuck in this moment forever." Haoran broke in, and the secret room was as wide as an underground palace. The walls were engraved with runes in Han and Tang styles. In the center was a giant key to time, a crystal column with veins beating like blood vessels. Meng-Chi was tied to the pillar with a blue chain, her eyes closed and her face pale. The leader stood aside, his tall and thin figure twisted, his mask broken, revealing his old face, and his eyes were filled with crazy hunger. "You think you will win by destroying the prototype? This is the core of the Silk Road legacy, the eternal life I pursue. Time distortion is not destruction, but rebirth. I will keep myself young forever. This city? It's just a sacrifice." Haoran gritted his teeth and opened his shield with his mind to block the phantom waves shot from the pillars. Phantoms appeared in the air. He returned to the company, the supervisor sneered, Meng-Chi left, and Bowen betrayed. Shadows were like a tide, and Haoran's heart tightened. These are my fears. In the past, I was always afraid of change and losing my ordinary. But now, his inner monologue was short. No, this is false. The team is real. He activated the time watch, partially accelerating his thoughts. The illusion shattered like bubbles, and his mind power caught like a sharp blade, dissolving into invisible fragments. Eternal life? It sounds like the dreams of emperors in those ancient tombs. Wake up! Haoran sneered and rushed forward, the time watch resisting the twisting of the pillar. The needle turned crazily, freezing the surrounding ripples, making the leader's movements slow. The leader roared, and the sleeves of his robe waved out the time chain. Boy, what do you know? The inheritance gives me power. I will rule the city, and the superpowers will serve me. The chain brushed against Haoran's shoulder, and his skin aged for a moment. He groaned in pain, but used his mind to reshape the wound, and his ability and will merged, as if they were one. The feeling of growth rushed through me like an electric current. It was no longer a borrowed force, it was his. Meng-Chi opened her eyes and shouted weakly, Haoran, use your watch to reverse the chain. Prediction shows that the pillar's weakness is the base rune. Haoran nodded, the time watch switched to acceleration mode, the chain reversed like rewinding, and let go of Meng-Chi. He lifted her up with his mind and retreated to the edge. Hold on, let's work together. The leader laughed and summoned the guards to pour in from the secret door. A dozen black shadow runes flashed and the air twisted into an attack network. Your team? The engineer Bowen is paralyzing the base due to my virus. Outside, Bowen squatted by the elevator shaft, his laptop screen jumping wildly. Damn, this virus is like an antique Trojan, mixed with Silk Road code. I hacked it. The mole, help me unlock the rune key. The mole nodded, the tattoo glowed, and entered the data. It's done. Brother Bowen, the base power supply is short-circuited, and the strengthened runes of the guards are invalid. Bowen threw the drone, the electromagnetic pulse exploded, and the guards at the secret room door were in chaos. Someone shouted, Boss, the system collapsed. Are we evacuating? Haoran heard the noise and helped Ming-Chi stand firm. Nice job, Bowen. Ming-Chi gasped, and premonition came to her again. The three of them joined forces. Now. She moved her fingers slightly, and her precognition targeted the weaknesses of the two guards and let them kill each other. Haoran's mental power exploded, reshaped the rubble into a giant hammer, and smashed three people away. Bowen remotely controlled the drone and dropped smoke bombs, paralyzing the sight of the remaining guards. The mole rushed in from the back door and inserted the data rod into the console. The blueprint shows that the guards' communication was lost and they turned against each other. During the melee, the three of them worked together. Haoran slowed down time and made the guards slow. Ming-Chi predicted the missile's path, and Bowen hacked their weapons. The guard was defeated, and someone knelt down. We were deceived. The leader only wants eternal life for himself. The leader turned pale and threw himself at the key of time. No! You can't destroy me. He pressed the base, the pillar roared, activated the final weapon. Blue light burst, rushed out of the secret room, and directly connected to the city power grid. Haoran felt his watch vibrate, and there were strange noises coming from outside the city. On the streets of Pudong, clocks turned backwards, crowds screamed, and vehicles collided repeatedly like ghosts. The time anomaly begins, the air bends, and the street lights flicker like old movies. The turning point is here, Meng-Chi whispered. This is a crisis, we have to destroy the key. Haoran nodded, overcoming the shadow. His will is as strong as steel. Ability is not a tool, but a bridge to continue the team. He shouted, Bowen, lock the pillar remotely. Ming-Chi, predict the best cutting point. The mole, open the back door. The blog responded, received. The pulse hits the base directly, and the runes are being cracked. The drone swooped down, and the electromagnetic waves exploded the cracks in the runes. Meng-Chi took Haoran's hand. Haoran, I see we win, but you have to lead. Her touch was like a warm current, and her romantic emotions made Haoran determined, no longer alone. Fusion of telekinesis and time, he rushed towards the head, froze the chains and cut the key base. The leader struggled, eternal life is mine. However, Haoran smashed him away with a hammer and hit the wall and vomited blood. The key shattered, the blue light converged, and the city's abnormality eased, but the aftermath remained. The tower shook violently, and the underground passage collapsed. Haoran helped Ming-Chi up, Bowen and the ghost came over, and the four of them reunited. It's over? No, the leader escaped, and there are still fragments of the inheritance. Haoran smiled, then continue. The team is here, we are invincible. They rushed out of the secret room, the night wind blew, the lights of Pudong remained the same. Haoran's bond was like a galaxy, binding the future. The night breeze was mixed with the neon smell of Pudong. Haoran and his group slipped out of the back door of the Oriental Pearl Tower and entered a narrow alley. The tower was still trembling slightly, and the blue light flickered in the corner like a will-o'-the-wisp. Haoran supported Ming-Chi, Bowen dragged the ghost, and the four of them panted and squatted against the wall. The mole wiped his sweat, still holding the data stick in his hand, the old fox at the head. The key is broken, but he has the fragments hidden on his body. The remnants of the organization will not give up. They are spreading the time virus in the city, and the streets are already in chaos. Haoran nodded, the dial of the time watch was still trembling slightly, and he felt that his ability was paralyzed like an electric shock. We can't wait, we have to stabilize the situation first. Bowen, how is the system in the tower? Bowen shook his laptop, and the remaining data was dancing on the screen. It's paralyzed, but the virus leaked, and the power grid by the Pujian River began to twist. Insider, give me the blueprint of the organization, and I will upgrade Haoran's watch to prevent it from crashing. The Silk Road heritage thing is too unstable, like the trams in old Shanghai, it is easy to short-circuit. They moved to an abandoned warehouse at the end of the alley. When they opened the door, they were filled with dust, like the smell of the dock in the old days. Ming-Chi leaned on Haoran's shoulder, her face still pale, but her eyes were bright. I foresee something. We have to make a plan, otherwise the leader will use debris to detonate the time storm in the city. Haoran's heart sank, and a brief flash occurred in his heart. From being a small employee in the company to this point, I used to be afraid of making wrong decisions, but now I have to shoulder the responsibility of the team. He took a deep breath. Let's talk, let's all brainstorm together. Insider, you first talk about the movement of organizing the remnant party. The mole sat down cross-legged, his tattoo faintly glowing under the light. There are about 20 people in the remnant party, divided into 3 teams. The first team set up an ambush in the Lujiazui financial district to guard the fragment stronghold. The second team blended into the crowd on the Bund, spreading the virus and causing the citizens to lose time. The third team escorted the leader to the old tunnel under the Huangpu River, which is the ancient entrance to the Silk Road. Heritage. The leader wants to use the fragment to restart the immortality ceremony, but the city power grid is needed as the center, otherwise it will collapse. Bowen tapped the laptop and smiled. It sounds like a treasure map in a martial arts novel. Haoran, your watch is the key. I upgraded it with the data rod and the rune code of the mole. First, add a protective layer to fuse my electromagnetic pulse to block the backlash of time. Ming-Chi, you predicted the weakness, and I adjusted the parameters while upgrading. He took out the toolbox from his backpack, as skilled as repairing a motorcycle in college. The data rod was inserted into the laptop, and the rune halo penetrated into the watch. Haoran stretched out his wrist and felt the surface heat up. Bowen, thank you. You are always supportive. It hasn't changed since the day I lost my job. Ming-Chi rubbed her temples and closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened her eyes, her voice was firm. The premonition showed that the key to victory lies in Haoran. You have to use your mind power and time to fuse and cut the core of the fragments. But you can't fight alone. Bowen paralyzed the power grid. I locked the path of the remaining party, and the inner ghost used runes to counter the virus. The 3 of us join forces, led by Haoran, and we can reverse it. But there is a risk. The leader will launch a storm, causing the city to cycle through time, and innocent people will be trapped in panic. As Haoran listened, fragments of the journey flashed through his mind, from the unexpected awakening, to the street fight, to the melee in the tower. He is no longer the shrinking office rat. His ability has melted into his bones, like drinking a bowl of hot poplar nectar, sweet and refreshing. Okay, the plan is set. First clean up the remaining gang members in the financial district and cut off their stronghold, then rescue people on the bund and stop the virus, finally block the tunnel and capture the leader. I will take the lead, Bowen will provide remote support, Meng-Chi will predict the navigation, and the insider will respond. The city is not their toy, we protect it, just like the old Shanghainese protect their home. Bowen closed the laptop, the dial of the watch stabilized, and the blue light turned green, upgrade completed. Now the anti-crash rate is 99%, Haoran, try it. Haoran activated his telekinesis, a piece of scrap iron floated, and time slowed down to make it rotate slowly without backlash. Awesome. Brother, it's stable now. The inner ghost nodded. I contacted a few guards who defected. They hate the leader for working hard to deny eternal life, so they will help. They rushed out of the warehouse, and the tall buildings in Pudong stood like giant beasts in the night. The financial district is brightly lit, but the air is distorted, and the shadows of passers-by flicker like old movie cassettes. Haoran led the team and jumped to the top of the building, using his telekinesis to lift himself like a kite. Bowen's drone was in front of him to explore the way. The remnants are on the top floor of the IFC building, and 10 people are guarding the debris box. Meng-Chi whispered, I knew they would set a trap, or rune net. But you can break it, cut in from the flank. The melee broke out suddenly. Haoran jumped from the air conditioner, the time watch slowed down the surroundings, and the rune arrows of the remaining party were as slow as a turtle crawling. He cut the air with his mind power and turned it into an invisible wind blade, smashing 2 men in black away. Surrender. It's time to wake up from your dream of eternal life. A remnant yelled back, the leader gave us power, what do you know? The inner ghost flashed out from behind, his tattoo lit up, and the counter rune said, power? That's a scam. Follow me, there is a way out. Bowen remotely hacked the building elevator and trapped backup. Haoran, the debris is in the safe, I pulse to unlock it. The drone swooped down, electromagnetic waves exploded the cabinet door, and the blue debris flashed. Haoran grabbed it and felt the pulse of time like a heartbeat, but the upgraded watch held it steady. It's done. Next stop, the bund. The crowd on the bund should have been lively, but now it was a mess. The virus caused citizens to lose time. Some people walked repeatedly, like ghosts hitting the wall, vehicles collided and screams broke out. A young mother held her child and was caught in the time ripples of the remnants. The child cried, Mom, why can't you move? Haoran's heart was as sharp as a knife, and his inner monologue flashed, don't let innocent people suffer, this is the meaning of a hero. He accelerated and rushed in, opening his shield with his mind to block the ripples. Bowen, paralyze the source of the virus. Meng-Chi, target the remnants. Meng-Chi's fingers trembled slightly, and she guided with prediction, 3 on the left, the weak point is the rune on the waist. Haoran's fusion ability, time freeze ripples, his mind power cuts the rune like a scalpel, and the virus disappears. The mother came to her senses and hugged the child tightly with tears in her eyes. Thank you, who are you? Haoran smiled, I'm just an ordinary office worker, just helping. Go quickly and find a safe place. The remnants of the party rushed towards him, swords and runes dancing wildly. The inner ghost counterattacked the two, and the Bowen drone dropped smoke. Haoran, backup is coming. Their communication is broken, and they are killing each other. When Haoran rescued his mother, a remnant rune chain brushed his arm, and the feeling of aging hit him, but he used a watch to reverse it and the wound healed. You are on the wrong track, he said to the kneeling remnants. The leader is only for himself, join us and save the city. During the battle, Haoran pulled Meng-Chi and hid behind the railing on the bund. She gasped, Haoran, you have changed. From the night you woke up to now, you have led like a hero. Haoran looked into her eyes, the river wind ruffled his hair, and his heart felt warm. Meng-Chi, thanks to you all the way. Prediction not only saved my life, but also allowed me to see the future with you. I love you, not as a hero's obligation, but from my heart. He kissed her forehead gently, as romantic as the light reflecting on the water of the Huangpu River. Meng-Chi smiled with tears in her eyes. I love you too. In the prediction, we will win, but we have to be together. Bowen's voice came from the earphones with a smile. Hey, are you done with the sweetness? The inner ghost said there is movement in the tunnel. But I promise, Haoran, from college to now, I will always be your backing. Technology, humor, all-inclusive. The team is invincible. The insider added, most of the remnant party defected, and the leader became anxious. He launched a storm in the tunnel, and all the debris opened up. The twist comes ferociously. A sudden blue light erupted on the Huangpu River. A time storm was like a tornado. The city clock turned back, the glass of high-rise buildings shattered, the crowds screamed on the streets of Pudong, and the traffic repeatedly collided. The air bends, streetlights flash into old photos, and citizens are trapped in a cycle of panic. Haoran felt his watch alarm blaring. Damn it, the whole city is on the verge of destruction. Change of plan, rush into the tunnel and destroy the source of the storm. He integrates all his experiences. His mental power is as precise as the concentration of overtime work in the past, and time is like the rhythm of the team. From shrinking to transformation, he balances heroism and humanity, not Superman, but protecting his ordinary self. Bowen's drone took off. I paralyzed the power grid on the riverside. Meng Qi held his hand tightly. Predict the best way, turn left on the river embankment. The ghost led the way. The entrance to the tunnel is at the old dock, and the leader is there, waiting. They jumped off the bund and advanced amidst the roar of the storm. Haoran's will was as steel as they prepared for a decisive battle. The city lights are swaying, but the bond of the team illuminates the way forward. The storm in the Huangpu River was like a crazy beast. The blue light vortex swallowed the night sky, the hands of the clock tower turned crazily, and the skyscrapers in Pudong let out a low groan in the distortion. Haoran took the lead and jumped over the river embankment, holding up the four of them with his mind, while the wind and rain hit their faces like whips. He felt the green light of the watch pulse, like the neon lights of old Shanghai, steadily guarding his heartbeat. "Male, where's the entrance?" he yelled, his voice half swallowed by the storm. The mole pointed at a pile of rusty containers by the dock, and the tattoo flashed under the blue light. There it is. The entrance to the old tunnel is hidden behind the false wall, and the leader's guards are guarding it tightly. Bowen's voice came from the drone screen, with his usual ridicule. "Haoran, I hacked into the power grid by the river. Pulse prepare to launch, the power that can paralyze the storm. But you have to hurry, otherwise the whole city will become old and the doomsday will play on a loop." Meng Qi held Haoran's hand tightly, and the prediction flashed through her mind. There is an ambush on the left, but the weakness is at the rune connection point. Remember, we are together. When they landed, the ground trembled, and the false wall at the entrance of the tunnel burst into pieces. 3 guards in black jumped out, and the rune chains were entangled like snakes. Haoran activated the time watch. The air around him was stagnant, and the chains were as slow as an old ox pulling a cart. With a wave of his mind, he cut the chain into pieces. "Stay out of the way. Are you still awake? The leader's immortality is poison. If you drink it, the whole family will suffer." A guard gasped and fought back, shooting rune arrows, but the inner ghost's tattoo lit up and bounced back. "Brother, follow me. The organization is over. I have witnessed too many bloodsheds." The guards hesitated, and the 2 dropped their weapons and knelt down to surrender. The remaining one was knocked unconscious by Bowen's pulse drone, and the smoke filled the air. Rushing into the tunnel, the humid air is mingled with the smell of metal. The walls are covered with ancient Silk Road runes, like relics at the bottom of the Huangpu River. Blue light surged from the depths, and the leader's voice echoed like a ghost whispering, "Lin Haoran, do you think that by upgrading that broken watch, you can defy the sky? Time is mine, and the city will be reborn for me." Haoran's heart tightened, and a brief thought flashed through his heart. This old guy, I used to be afraid of such big scenes, but now I have to fight to the end for the team in this city. At the end of the tunnel is a wide cave, with an eternal ritual platform floating in the center. The fragments are assembled into a blue core. A storm breaks out from it, and the ripples of time cause the cave walls to age and peel off. The leader stood in front of the stage, his gray robes fluttering, his eyes shining like broken glass, surrounded by a dozen remnants guarding him, and a network of runes densely covering him. Meng Qi whispered, "Precognition shows that the core weakness is in the lower connector. You use time to reverse the vortex, and I will lock the path." Bowen's earphones sounded, "Haoran, I will launch a pulse and paralyze the power grid. The inner ghost, counter their rune field." The battle broke out like fireworks in Pudong. The remnants rushed towards them, and rune blades rained down. Haoran's fusion ability, the time watch, slowed down the whirlpool. His mind power was like an invisible big hand. He lifted himself up and jumped onto the ceremony stage. "Boss, your game is over. This city is not your experimental ground. Ordinary people have to live their own lives." The leader sneered, waved his hand to summon the time lock. "Boy, what do you know? Eternal life is evolution. I give them a chance." He hooked his fingers, and ripples locked Haoran's legs, making him feel the years coming like a tide, and his skin wrinkled. "Haoran, turn left." Meng Qi shouted, her foresight flashed, guiding him to turn sideways. The inner ghost rushed forward, his tattoo exploded, and he countered the chain. "Old man, your runes are out of date. Just like the telegraph in old Shanghai, it is disconnected." Bowen's drone swooped down, the electromagnetic pulse exploded, the cave lights flickered, the remnant's rune network collapsed, and several guards were stunned and fell to the ground. "Ha, long live technology." Bowen laughed in the headphones. "Haoran, the core is exposed, do it." Haoran broke free from the chains, and the dial of the time watch spun wildly. He took a deep breath and poured his mind power into the watch. The blue light flows backwards, and the core of the storm begins to reverse, like a river flowing backwards. "This is balance," he said to the leader. "Ability is not to destroy, but to protect. I have learned this from the day I awakened." The power of thought was like laser cutting, accurately hitting the lower connector of the core. The fragments cracked, and the blue light shattered into star points. The leader roared, summoning the last wave of ripples, but Meng Qi held onto Haoran with foresight. "Dodge to the right. The inner ghost, block his retreat." The inner ghost's rune flashed and blocked the back door of the tunnel. "Boss, how many years have you sold us? That's enough." Bowen's last attack hit the ceremony table with a pulse, causing the table to crack. The figure of the leader was distorted, and the backlash of time caused him to age into withered bones, collapse and fall to the ground. "It's impossible to live forever." His voice turned into an echo and dissipated in the cave. Upon seeing this, the remnants dropped their weapons and fled, but the inner man shouted, "Surrender. The organization has collapsed, rebuild with us." The storm stopped abruptly, and the blue light receded like an ebbing tide. Haoran gasped and stood firm, his watch returned to calm. He looked at the team. Bowen gave a thumbs up from the drone footage, Meng Qi's eyes flashed with tears, and the mole wiped his sweat and nodded. "We won," Haoran said, with relief in his voice. "It's not me alone, it's us." They rushed out of the tunnel, the Huangpu River returned to calm, the lights in Pudong were lit again, and the clock tower hands returned to their positions. The citizens on the streets woke up from panic. Some people rubbed their eyes and murmured, "Was that a dream just now?" The mother held her child and looked towards the river. "Thanks to those heroes." The three of Haoran stood at the pier, and the ghost patted him on the shoulder. "Haoran, thank you. You gave me a second spring. I will take the brothers who rebelled, clean up the remnants, and establish a new order." Early the next morning, the headlines in Pudong newspapers exploded. Mysterious heroes foil the time crisis and the city miraculously recovers. Haoran did not hide. He chose to disclose part of the truth, not to tell all the secrets of the superpower, but as a guardian of technology to tell the organization's conspiracy and their struggle through the video of the blog post. "Dear Shanghainese," he said in the video, with the morning light on the bund in the background, "I am an ordinary office worker, Lin Haoran. When the crisis comes, we cannot sit idly by. Whether it is capabilities or technology, they are all to protect the city. In the future, we will be stronger." The public response came like a flood, and the internet was hotly discussed. "Brother Haoran. From a social animal to a hero, inspiring." The ant on the roadside handed hot milk tea. "Young man, thank you for saving my baby." Haoran took it with a smile, and felt warm in his heart. I used to be afraid of exposure, but now I understand that a hero is not invisible, but a responsibility. A few weeks later, life was back on track, but with an extra layer of luster. Haoran resigned from his old company and jointly opened a studio with Bowen Silk Road Guardian Technology, specializing in the development of supernatural protective devices, like upgraded watches, to prevent potential crises. Bowen typed on the keyboard and chuckled. Haoran, we went from studying computers in college to engaging in super black technology. Our lives have been upgraded, right? For the next project, I will add a precognition app to Mingqi to save her a headache. Haoran nodded, seeing the busy traffic in Lujiazui outside the office window. Yes, brother. I used to work overtime until I collapsed, but now I'm balanced. Heroes don't fight every day, they protect every day. The insider occasionally visits, bringing old files from the organization and helping them improve the system. Your studio is like a new Silk Road, connecting the past and the future. As the sun set, Haoran and Mingqi walked along the Huangpu River. The crowd was bustling and the vendors selling candied haws on the haws were shouting. Mingqi held his arm, and the picture in the foreknowledge was as warm as spring. Haoran, I see our future, the studio is busy, the children are laughing, and the city is peaceful. You have changed from that shrinking guy to my hero. Haoran stopped, the river wind ruffled her hair, and he hugged her gently. Mingqi, this journey is all thanks to you. My ability makes me strong, but you make me complete. Loving you is not an obligation, but a willingness. She smiled and kissed his lips. The sunset reflected the river like gold. I love you too. Let's guard this hot land together. Looking back on this journey, Haoran sat on the balcony of his studio and looked at Shanghai at night. From the panic of unexpected awakening to the fearlessness of decisive battle, he transformed. Telepathy and time watches are no longer burdens, but tools to protect the ordinary. The city enjoys eternal peace not because of Superman, but because of heroes like him who learn to balance life and responsibility from ordinary people. The future is carefree, and his heart is finally at peace.